My name is Daniel. I'm 48 years old, and I've been married to my wife, Melissa, for 22 years. In those 22 years, we had survived job losses, medical bills, raising 2 children, and caring for aging parents. But somehow, the silence between us had become harder than every other challenge combined. Melissa hadn't always been distant. She used to call me during lunch just to ask how my day was going. She laughed at my terrible jokes. She insisted we eat dinner together every evening, even if it was only frozen pizza. Those days slowly disappeared. Her work became busier. Mine became more stressful. Conversations turned into reminders. Pay the electric bill. Pick up groceries. Did you sign Emma's school form? Weeks passed without asking each other one simple question. How are you? Tonight's text felt different, not because she was going out. She deserved time with her friends. It was those last 3 words. Don't wait up. They sounded less like information, and more like a wall. I walked into the kitchen. Dinner was already cooking. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, her favorite green beans with garlic. I had planned a quiet evening together. Nothing fancy, just us. I looked at the table. 2 plates, 2 glasses, 2 folded napkins. Then I quietly put 1 plate back into the cabinet. For several minutes I stood by the sink, wondering if I should reply. Should I ask where she was going? Should I ask when she'd be home? Should I pretend everything was fine? Instead, I wrote 1 sentence. Okay, I understand. I left your dinner on the table, and tomorrow I'll call the realtor. I pressed send. Nothing else. No accusations. No anger. No dramatic speech. Just 1 sentence. 10 minutes later, the front door opened. Melissa walked inside so quickly she almost forgot to close it. She was still holding her purse. Her makeup was done. Her coat wasn't even buttoned. She looked at me with wide eyes. What realtor? I looked up from the table. The one helping me find a smaller house. She blinked. What are you talking about? I motioned toward the chair across from me. Sit. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then slowly, she sat down. I don't understand, she whispered. I know. I folded my hands together. I've been thinking for months. She looked frightened now. Thinking about what? Our life. The room became perfectly quiet. Not angry quiet, sad quiet. The kids are grown. She nodded. We barely speak. Another nod. You've been happier everywhere except here. Her eyes filled with tears. Daniel. I gently shook my head. I'm not blaming you. I think we stopped choosing each other. She stared at the untouched dinner. I didn't even notice you cooked. I know. I thought tonight was just another Thursday. I know. You really called a realtor. I looked one up this afternoon. Her breathing became uneven. You want a divorce? I answered honestly. I don't want one. She looked confused. But I also don't want roommates pretending to be husband and wife. The words hung in the air. She covered her mouth. For the first time in years, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing the house. Not fear of money. Fear of losing us. She whispered. When did you become so lonely? I smiled sadly. I've always been lonely. You never said anything. I tried. When I asked if we could eat dinner together. When I suggested weekend walks. When I asked if you'd watch our favorite movie again. When I sat beside you while you scrolled your phone. I wasn't asking for activities. I was asking for you. A tear rolled down her cheek. I didn't hear you. I know. She looked around the room. The candles. The dinner. The music softly playing in the background. You planned this. Yes. For us. Yes. She began crying openly now. I thought. What? I thought you didn't care anymore. I almost laughed. Melissa, I've spent 22 years loving you. I just stopped believing you wanted that love. She buried her face in her hands. I'm so sorry. Minutes passed. Neither of us spoke. Finally she looked at me again. I wasn't really going to girls' night. I frowned. What do you mean? She took a shaky breath. I was sitting in the parking lot. I couldn't make myself go. Why? Because every time I leave this house, I feel guilty. I know we're drifting apart. I just didn't know how to fix it. So I kept avoiding it. I nodded slowly. Avoiding pain doesn't remove it. It only delays it. She reached across the table. Very carefully, as if she wasn't sure I would accept. She took my hand. It felt unfamiliar. Not because I didn't remember it. Because it had been so long. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. I don't want us to end. Neither do I. So why the realtor? I smiled gently. Because sometimes people only hear whispers after they've almost heard goodbye. Fresh tears filled her eyes. I heard you. I know. She squeezed my hand. I cancelled so many evenings with you. I know. I chose work. I know. I chose my phone. I know. I chose everyone else. I nodded. But you're here now. She looked around again. I can still smell dinner. It might be cold. We can warm it. For the first time that evening. She smiled. A small smile, but a real one. We reheated the food together. She insisted on setting the table again. 2 plates, 2 glasses, 2 folded napkins. Exactly the way I'd arranged them before. Halfway through dinner, she reached for her phone. Then stopped. Without saying a word, she turned it completely off. She placed it in the kitchen drawer. Then she returned to the table. I've missed this. So have I. We talked for nearly 3 hours. Not about bills. Not about work. About dreams we'd forgotten. Trips we'd never taken. Books we wanted to read. Our children. Our fears. Our regrets. And our hopes. Nothing magical happened that night. 22 years of distance didn't disappear before midnight. Trust wasn't instantly repaired. Habits didn't suddenly change. But something far more important happened. We remembered that marriage isn't held together by anniversaries or photographs. It's held together by ordinary evenings. Shared meals. Honest conversations. And the courage to say, I'm hurting. The next morning, Melissa walked into the kitchen carrying 2 cups of coffee. She smiled and asked, what should we do tonight? I looked at her for a moment. Then answered with the simplest words I'd said in years. Let's just come home to each other. She nodded. I'd like that. Sometimes, the strongest message isn't the loudest one. Sometimes, one quiet sentence is enough to remind 2 people that love doesn't disappear overnight. It simply waits for someone to open the door and come home.